Good evening, welcome to the October 16th our town board meeting. Please join me to the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Pat, if you call the roll.
Councilman Stanhope here, Councilman Mano.
Here.
Councilman Walker here, Vice Chair.
Here, entertain a motion to approve minutes of 10-2.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Romano, second by Ms. Wallace.
Councilman Allen.
Yes.
Councilman Stanhope. Yes. Councilman Mano.
Yes.
Councilman Walker. Yes, Vice Chair.
Yes, communications and announcements. Any takers this evening? Yes, Mrs. Stanton.
Yes, once again, I'd like to announce that we are entering into our 4th year for youth court. Trainings begin October 25th. It is not too late to apply, so if you're interested in the youth court program, you can find all the information on how to apply on our website, cliftonpark.org. Search for youth court. All the information is there. Applications are there. We would love to have you.
Very good. Thank you very much. 7th grade and up. I see some prospective youth court members here this evening, as a matter of fact. So if you'd like more information, we'd love to have you. And you won't be disappointed. Any other communications and announcements? Okay, very good. We do have a couple of presentations tonight. We'll start with a program that is offered by the Elks, and we have some representatives from the Clifton Park Elks here today. Mr. Matthias, Mr. Masterson, Mr. Roth, and Dan, are you going to start off?
Sure.
Dan's going to talk about Red Ribbon Week, and we're certainly taking every opportunity to engage the community, people of all ages, with regard to the opioid crisis that's affecting every region of our country. And we have two folks that are giving presentations tonight along those lines, some good work that's being done. We have an upcoming event at Shen in conjunction with area communities on the 26th, but Dan is going to talk about Red Ribbon Week.
Thank you very
How are
much.
you, sir?
Supervisor Barrett, members of the board, administration, I appreciate the opportunity. My name is Dan Matthias, 7 Birch Hill Road, Ballston Lake. With me tonight are Craig Masterson, who is our Drug Awareness Program Chair, and Sandy Roth, who really needs no introduction, but he's our Government Relations Chairman. You may not have seen it, but last Tuesday evening on CBS 6, the lead story was about heroin deaths in one of our local communities. They increased over the last 2 years 700%. At the same time, deaths from the opioid, synthetic opioid fentanyl increased 300%. Drug overdoses killed approximately 64,000 people last year. That was more than the entire Vietnam War deaths for the U.S. So we have a serious problem. The Clifton Park Elks have been working with some local organizations. We're trying to work with the Y, Youth Soccer, the Boy Scouts, and most recently Craig was over at Niskayuna Elementary Schools passing out dictionaries, but in each dictionary he had a drug awareness bookmark encouraging kids to lead a healthy lifestyle, and also in there was a red ribbon. The red ribbon was developed by the National Family Partnership. They started it when Kiki Camarena, the drug enforcement agent, was killed in Mexico by the drug cartel. And it's intended to symbolize intolerance to medical drugs and encourage kids to lead a healthy lifestyle. October 23rd through the 31st is Red Ribbon Week. We'd like to give you each a red ribbon and ask you if you would please wear it as a symbol of a healthy lifestyle and encourage our youth to do the same. And we're looking forward. We appreciate the opportunity to participate in the forum next week, and we'll be there with more red ribbons.
Good.
So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, the shoulder does look good, doesn't it? Gotta be a dealer. We also have a resolution that we passed to commemorate Red Ribbon Week. Pat, if you could read that, and I'll present it to the gentleman.
This is resolution number 260 of 2017, a resolution to proclaim the week of October 23rd through the 31st, 2017 as Red Ribbon Week and encourage all citizens to commit to drug-free education and healthy drug-free lifestyles. Whereas alcohol and other drug abuse in this nation has reached epidemic stages, and whereas it is imperative that visible and unified prevention and education efforts by community members be launched to eliminate the demand for drugs, and whereas the National Family Partnership is sponsoring the National Red Ribbon Campaign, offering citizens the opportunity to demonstrate their commitment to drug-free lifestyles, no use of illegal drugs, no illegal use of legal drugs. And whereas the National Red Ribbon Campaign will be celebrated in every community in America during Red Ribbon Week, October 23rd through the 31st, 2017, and whereas business, government, parents, law enforcement, media, medical, religious institutions, schools, senior citizens, service organizations, and youth will demonstrate their commitment to healthy, drug-free lifestyles by wearing and displaying red ribbons during this week-long campaign. And whereas the Town of Clifton Park further commits its resources to ensure the success of the Red Ribbon Campaign, now therefore be resolved that the Town of Clifton Park does hereby proclaim October 23rd through the 31st, 2017 as Red Ribbon Week and encourages its citizens to participate in drug prevention, education activities, making a visible statement that we are strongly committed to a drug-free state.
Very good. I move that we approve the resolution with a second by the board. Okay, Pat?
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilman Standar?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilman Wallach? Supervisor Barrett?
Yes, and you might be surprised, a total stranger just walked in, and he's wearing a red ribbon. This gentleman, could you introduce yourself, sir?
I thought this was the court, the county court. This isn't for kids.
Are you here for your speeding ticket, or?
DWI.
Well, let me get you a ride home, sir. Dan, can you give this gentleman a ride home? I know where he lives. I know where he lives. So, but I do want to thank, the Elks, they do a lot in our community. And a lot of it's done without much fanfare. But the various programs that they have for kids, the support of a very robust scouting program at the lodge, and many, many other things. They really do a lot to support people of all ages within our community. And that's why they remain a very vibrant organization and have for many years. They're located on McElroy Road, for those that aren't familiar with the Elks. They're always looking for members, and they have a lot of great events throughout the year. A lot of it's camaraderie, a lot of it's community service, and also programs for youth. So I do want to commend you for Red Ribbon Week and what you're doing to bring attention to this awful situation that we're experiencing in our country. But I also want to thank you for everything else that you and the Elks do throughout the year. So thank you very much. Thank you. Red ribbon here. Thank you, gentlemen. Very good. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, they do have a good veterans breakfast. That's a lot. Last Sunday of the month. And he lives on Main Street, Dan, so if you could just make sure he gets home. Pat just brought over something I want to make sure I mention before we go too far into the meeting. Not So Common Players, they're back, although they never really went away, right, Pat? They have a new great show, I Love You Because, a modern-day musical love story. And it's going to take place October 27th and 28th at 8 p.m. and then October 29th at 2 p.m. And it's great that they schedule it this way, because I know there's folks that can't attend events at night, so the fact that they do a matinee is very helpful to a lot of folks. November 2nd at 7:30, and then November 3rd and 4th at 8, and again a matinee on November 5th. Now all of these performances are taking place at the library. So this looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So again, Not So Common Players, if you haven't seen them perform, they've been performing for many years. We support them through the town. Great free theater. They just do a fantastic job. I also want to, Frank came in and reminded me that Saturday night we had, every year we have what's called Things That Go Bump in the Night. That's the name of the event. It's at Veterans Park. We have about 250 acres now up at Veterans Park for you to enjoy as public property. And we've made 2 acquisitions to add to that park. And every year we have this great event where families come out, they walk the trails within the park. Along the trails there's informational kiosks, if you will. It's basically people that, there was a lady from DEC and other people that are outdoor enthusiasts that were giving just a brief explanation of some of the wildlife that lives in that area and just general information about the outdoors and nature. So the kids get out at night because it's 6 to 8, so it gets dark around 6:30 now this time of year. So I know the kids love that. They're out there, out walking around the woods at night in a guided tour. And then when they're done doing the tour through the woods, then they come out, we roast marshmallows and make s'mores, sing campfire songs, and it was great. Did you get a count on how many people were there, Jim?
I think they said about 215.
Yeah, it was a good crowd. So I do want to thank Jim Romano as our liaison to the Open Space Committee. And so I do want to thank Kristen Murphy. I know she did a lot of work planning it as well. Frank was there giving his info. What was your informational speech about, Frank?
I had a lot of things for the kids to touch, that they could have deer antlers and hooks and turkey parts and all kinds of things. They're always inquisitive. Talked about the maybe deer ticks you got to check on.
Yeah.
Good group.
Yeah,
Very
yeah. There was
crowded.
also some safety
Yeah.
issues that were discussed with the kids briefly as well. So just a nice night, and I just want to thank everybody. The weather, the last couple of years in particular, the weather's been very nice on that evening, and just a well-attended, fun evening for families.
And can always use people to help next year. We're already talking about we need a little more people to help walk them around.
I think you got 2 volunteers right
Right
here.
here. Okay.
Yeah. Greg was telling me just the other day that he's been wanting an excuse to get out into our open spaces and our trails. So there you go. Get him a year ahead of time. All right. Next up, we have Chad Putnam, Center of Treatment Innovation at New Choices Recovery Center. Come on up, Chad.
Sure.
I spoke to Chad last week, and it was a late add to the agenda. But I thought it was important that he come tonight. I think his presentation fits well with the Elks being here for Red Ribbon Week, but it's also our last meeting of the month, so better, when it comes to this situation that we're all combating in our municipalities, the sooner the better, right? So Chad is here, and he's going to talk for a few minutes about the organization that he works for and the project that he's involved with. So go ahead, Chad.
Wonderful. Thank you, Supervisor, for the opportunity to be here with you tonight and all of the town board members. It's a pleasure to be able to join you. My name is Chad Putman. I'm a social worker, and I'm also the project director for the Center of Treatment Innovation. I'm also a person in long-term recovery, and I say that because it's important that everybody know that recovery is possible. I've been able to become a social worker in recovery. I was a former deputy city clerk for the city of Schenectady, and now I have the great honor to be the project director for this project to address the heroin epidemic that is certainly impacting so many individuals and families across all of upstate New York. So what is the Center of Treatment Innovation? New Choices is actually housed in Schenectady, New York. The Center of Treatment Innovation is part of an OASIS-funded grant where they received federal tax dollars to create 7 different Center of Treatment Innovations that are going to be popping up around upstate New York. And they're going to be serving 16 different counties. And if you look at your PowerPoint, you'll see, and I'm sorry I don't have copies for everybody, but certainly if you'd like more information, I can get that to you by email at a later date. 16 counties are going to be served by these CODI projects. They were identified because a number of individuals who were seeking substance abuse treatment were being referred out of the county to receive services. So the idea is to create more local resources for individuals who are reaching out for assistance, individuals who are struggling with an opioid use disorder or some other kind of substance use disorder and they're in need of services but are struggling to engage. The overall goal of this CODI project is to reduce the number of opioid and heroin related deaths, improve access to treatment, focus on underserved communities, so recognizing that there are spots within communities within Saratoga County where you have a high rate of service providers, for instance in Saratoga Springs where you have Conifer Park, and in Glenville where you also have Conifer Park, or Spark, in Saratoga Springs. But looking at the river communities such as Mechanicville, Stillwater, Schuylerville, Clifton Park does not have a treatment center. We're looking up at Hadley and Corinth, and also other parts of Saratoga County that are underserved. We're also able to provide services to individuals who are uninsured or underinsured with this project, so individuals who don't have insurance are still able to receive services through our program. The innovations in treatment really come through the telehealth and the peer-driven services. So telehealth is similar to Skyping or Facebooking or FaceTime that many young people or others are engaged with. But telehealth has made great inroads with regards to psychiatry. But now we're going to be offering substance use medication-assisted treatment through telehealth. So being able to connect an individual at home or at one of our spokes that we have set up in Saratoga County to engage with a clinician that is at a hub at, say, Saratoga Hospital or something like that, so that the individual doesn't have to travel in to a provider to get those services. The other piece that is really innovative with regards to this program is the Certified Recovery Peer Advocates that are really part of our mobile treatment team. These individuals they have a couple years of sobriety, they're paid staff, they've been through certification training, and they're the ones that are working on the front lines to engage individuals who are struggling with a substance use disorder, an opioid use disorder, and they can work with them by offering them recovery peer supports, trying to connect them to services that can help them achieve their recovery goals. Specifically, some of the services that we're going to be able to offer include assessment and treatment referrals, the telehealth and the medication-assisted treatment. For those of you not familiar with medication-assisted treatment, oftentimes individuals who are struggling with an opioid use disorder, we can set them up with a prescriber that will give them Suboxone or Vivitrol. It's a medication to assist with withdrawals, cravings. It helps them move towards a place of recovery and abstinence, away from illegal drug use and or the synthetic opioids. We're able to offer individual, family, and group therapy, the peer advocate recovery supports, as well as case management. And our mobile treatment team consists of a clinician, a registered nurse, and a case manager. And we're actually able to go out and do home visits with individuals. So rather than the individual having to travel to the treatment center, we can actually go to them and offer an assessment, a nurse assessment, right at their home. The rest of the slides just kind of get into some more of the details in relation to the specific services that we're offering. I just want to make a couple announcements. This is a new project. This is something that I got this job at the end of July. So we're hiring. So we're looking for individuals who are interested in joining our treatment team to be part of our Certified Recovery Peer Advocate outreach crew that will be going around Saratoga County. Currently we have an individual working on the Mechanicville and Stillwater area and up in Saratoga Springs, but we are looking for somebody in the Clifton Park region of Saratoga County. So if you know anybody You just have to have a high school diploma, a couple years of sobriety, access to a vehicle. My contact information is there if somebody would like to reach out to me to learn more about the employment opportunities that are available through the Cody Project.
Jack, not to interrupt you,
Sure.
but is there anything in particular that you look for with somebody's background? I mean, you explained the necessary educational requirements, but is there anything in particular that, you know?
So we're looking for individuals who reside in the communities in which we want to provide those services.
Mhm.
So, for example, our peer advocate who is serving Mechanicville, Stillwater, and Schuylerville grew up in Mechanicville. So she has deep roots and connections in that community. So we want to make sure that when we bring a peer advocate on to serve the capital region, or I'm sorry, to serve the Clifton Park or Malta area, that individual comes from these communities. So they already have those established relationships and connections.
Oh,
They also need to be somebody who's willing to go through the training.
yeah.
So the grant allows us to pay for the training. So historically, somebody would have to go pay $300 or $400 to get the certificate training, but we can actually cover that through the grant. It's 50 hours of training that they have to go through, and we can cover that expense and walk them through that process. So they just have to have a willingness to become certified if they're not already.
Great.
And just two other quick points. Just want to share, we are doing an event on Saturday, November 8th in Mechanicville. It's a day of recovery. We've partnered with Oasis. We're going to be showing a film called Reversing the Stigma that addresses the stigma associated with addiction. We also partnered with Mechanicville Police Chief Waldron. He'll be on a panel discussion following that film. And lastly, I just want to share with you, I provided you all with a help card, and this was actually a suggestion that came from meetings that we had with the Saratoga County Sheriff's Department. They said it'd be great if we had a little card that we could give to a family or an individual who we visited on a regular basis, either through EMS or some other regular contact, that we could say, hey, this is the number you need to call if you're looking for help. So we created these help cards, and I have more of them if people are interested. But it has national resources as well as Saratoga County-specific resources available for individuals who are in need of support. So.
Oh, that's great. You know, there were two things when we discussed, you and I were speaking last week, there were two things that intrigued me. One was the peer segment, which is very powerful. I've seen it work for many veterans. We have a peer-to-peer program in Saratoga County for veterans. Basically, what we attempt to do is pair a veteran that's returning from overseas, having reacclimation difficulties, and pairing them with a mentor that can help them as they reacclimate, get on their feet. Could be just somebody to talk to, could be somebody to provide some meaningful advice or just experience.
Absolutely.
So I thought that was great, and the mobile aspect I thought was fantastic. It's a little more than just somebody calling cold on the phone and talking to somebody that they can't see. I think that first initial, they always say you can only have one chance to make a first impression, right? So I think it's a more powerful first impression if they can actually talk to somebody face to face. And I think that's a very important part of the program as well. In those situations, how and where do you get referrals? Can it be from a friend? Can it be from a family member? Law enforcement, an educational organization? How do the referrals work that would get somebody in a situation where they're talking to somebody face to face about the problem?
Yeah, sure. And thank you for those questions and those points with regards to the program. My contact information is on the back of the flyer, and I'd be happy to share that with more folks. It's that simple. Folks can just reach out to me. Because we're a newer program and this is a newer venture for Oasis, we haven't been uploaded with all the bureaucratic paperwork and referral processes. So really it's as simple as just emailing, calling, getting in touch with me, and I can set up a home visit, an assessment, a screening with our peer advocates. We try and make the initial point of contact to be with our peer advocates,
Right.
so that we begin to establish that relationship of peer support. initially. So it's really just that simple for folks just to get in touch with me, and I can help
So if
them
somebody
with
wanted
that
to make
process.
a referral, they would call you until you get somebody hired in this area, because like you said, this is a new program. Now, obviously, the person has to want to meet with somebody, right?
Yes.
So I guess just so I understand the mechanics, it can't be just a referral. In other words, say I have a friend that has a problem, and I call you and say, hey, can you go see Joe Schmo? That probably doesn't work, right? You need to hear from the person themselves.
Well, not necessarily
Oh.
the individual themselves, but it is voluntary. So anytime any individual who is struggling with a substance use disorder and they decide to engage in treatment, that's on a voluntary basis,
Right.
unless there's a court-related issue that has mandated them to get involved in some type of treatment. But yes, it's always best that the individual has some kind of internal motivation to engage in the services, because we'll be able to get further.
Well, it could be turn into a potentially tenuous situation if you show up or your folks show up and the person doesn't know they're coming. That could be.
That's true.
Yeah.
But we can also provide services and referrals to family members. So oftentimes the individual who is struggling with the substance use disorder, the impact on the family is really significant.
Oh, yeah.
And to try and connect the family with Nar-Anon and other support services to help them cope with the stress and everything that's going on in their household because of the active addiction, it's so critical that the family has support in addition to the individual struggling with the substance use disorder as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is great. The other reason I wanted you here was hopefully more word will spread about your organization and the program, and you can help as many people as possible. And there's a lot of people out there that need help.
Yeah. Thank you so much for
Really
the
that
opportunity.
simple. Are there any other questions for Chad before? Well, thank you for this info, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
we'll see you on the 26th, right?
Absolutely.
All right, good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. Okay, so, I guess the message is simple. There are a lot of assets available to families and people that are struggling with addiction. They're there. They're ready to help. They're effectively helping people every day. But please, if you know somebody or you yourself are having or struggling with an addiction of some sort, Chad and groups like his are ready and willing to help out. Okay. All right, we do have a few resolutions this evening. Pat, if you could read through those, I'd appreciate it.
A resolution on authorizing the assessor to re-levy additional and amended maintenance costs for abandoned or foreclosure homes pursuant to section 77-12 of the code. A resolution number 254, 2017, the town board authorized the assessor to re-levy unpaid maintenance costs for abandoned homes pursuant to cost data provided by the Director of Buildings and Grounds and the Director of Building and Development. And whereas the Buildings and Grounds Department has provided updated and corrected figures for the maintenance costs associated with the respective properties, that it be resolved that the assessor is authorized to re-levy the corrected and additional unpaid bills for maintenance for the respective property pursuant to Exhibit A. The resolution is scheduling a public hearing to consider the 2018 preliminary budget. Whereas the town board wishes to obtain comment regarding the 2018 preliminary budget, and whereas the salaries of the town's elected officials as proposed are attached, that it be resolved that the public hearing is scheduled for Thursday, November 9th, 2017 at 7:01 p.m. in the Wood Memorial Meeting Room on Town Hall Plaza, Clifton Park, New York, for the 2018 preliminary budget, and be further resolved that the town clerk public appropriation of the city. A resolution approving an outside user connection to the Clifton Country Road Sewer District Number 1 for property located at 11 Clifton Country Road. Whereas the town board of commissioners of the Clifton Country Road Sewer District Number 1 has received a request to extend a service to land owned by VP Outlaw North LLC at 11 Clifton Country Road, for more particularly identified as SBL 272.1-44.2, and whereas CP, CP Outlook North LLC intends to request the inclusion into an expanded sewer district after subdivision of 11 Clifton Country Road is completed and septic tax identification numbers have been assigned. And whereas the real property is located outside the current service area of the Clifton Country Road Sewer District Number 1, and whereas Michael O'Brien, Collection Systems Manager, has determined that sufficient capacity exists within the Clifton Country Road Sewer District Number 1 sanitary sewer system to provide service to the property, and whereas the town board recognizes the environmental planning and policy objectives met by approving sanitary sewer service over alternate plans for a new septic system. Now therefore be resolved that the town board, acting as commissioners of the Clifton Country Road Sewer District Number 1, hereby approves an outside user connection to the district's facilities for property located at 11 Clifton Country Road, Clifton Park, New York, and be further resolved that the connection fee of $1,000 per lateral and the permit fee of $50 per lateral applies pursuant to Town Code Section 169-103, and be further resolved that the outside user agreement shall be assigned to the commercial establishments constructed at 11 Clifton Country Road and connected to the Clifton Country Road Sewer District Number 1 facilities. A resolution authorizing hiring of Brian Hensel and Mark McCune as motor equipment operators in the Highway Department. Whereas 2 openings exist in the Highway Department for motor equipment operators, and whereas Superintendent of Highways Dan Bull has recommended the hiring of the following individuals: Brian Hensel, the license type is Class B, Waterford, New York, and Mark McCune, license type is Class B, N&W, also Waterford, New York. And whereas Mr. Hensel brings over 10 years of experience of construction, highway maintenance, snow removal to this position, and Mr. McCune brings 8 years of highway maintenance and snow removal experience to this position, that it be resolved that the town board authorizes the hiring of Brian Hensel and Mark McCune as motor equipment operators at 35 step 1 at a salary of $44,970 at a rate of $21.62 per hour, effective at a start date to be determined by the Superintendent of Highways and the employee prior to October 24, 2017, and may further resolve that each individual be compensated at an estimated $8,648, with approximately $6,054 transferred from line item to their respective salary lines, and $2,594 transferred also from a line to their respective salary lines. And they further resolve that the town board recognize Mr. Hensel's and Mr. McCune's years of highway experience and allots vacation credits on Article 10 of the collective bargaining agreement with the SCA, providing 1 personal day and 1 vacation day for the remainder of 2017, and allotting 5 personal days and 10 vacation days for the 2015 calendar year. A resolution authorizing the town supervisor to enter into a contract to purchase 3.39 plus or minus acres of land along the Bear Brook stream for open space and habitat protection, and authorize a transfer from contingency. Whereas the town board wishes to enter into an agreement with Louise C. Straney to purchase approximately 3.59 acres of land for stream corridor and habitat protection, including a segment of the Bear Brook stream in the Innisbrook neighborhood. And whereas the permanent protection of this segment of stream corridor and its immediate stream banks offers a habitat protection benefit for the native eastern brook trout that have been documented in the Bear Brook, a water quality protection benefit by the conservation of lands along the Bear Brook, and can provide a connection to existing public lands along the Bear Brook. And whereas the acquisition of this land would confer a benefit to the town of Clifton Park and its residents, and whereas the subject property is identified as 3.59 acres of land in 2 adjacent parcels. The existing tax parcels section block is 271.7-3-1, that's 2.94 acres in this Brookport rear, and section block 27.7-3-6, that's 0.65 acres of Innisbrook rear, located in the town of Clifton Park. And whereas the acquisition cost for the land will be $6,250, and whereas the acquisition project has been determined to be an unlisted action pursuant to secret, and a long form EAF has been prepared, resolved that the town board hereby determines that the action will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment, and authorizes the preparation of a negative declaration pursuant to secret, and be it further resolved that the town supervisor is authorized to enter into the attached agreement with landowner Louise C. Straney for the purchase of 2 parcels of approximately 3.59 acres of land located on the Bear Brook at Innsbrook Fort Rear for passive parkland purposes at a cost to the town of $6,250 and any necessary closing and transaction fees as determined per the town attorney, such as may be applicable, title report, title insurance, environmental site assessment, and deed recording fees to be paid from, the line is listed, $5,000 and a transfer of $2,000 from contingency. A resolution awarding the contract for repairs to a fence at 82 South Ferry Road. Whereas a tree on town-owned land fell and damaged a section of fencing on the neighboring property at 82 South Ferry Road, and whereas quotes for fence repairs were received on or before October 13, 2017, and whereas Access Anvil Corp. Schuylerville, New York submitted the low quote in the amount of $788 in response to the request for quotes documents, and whereas Michael Hanahan, Director of Buildings and Grounds, recommends awarding the contract for fencing repair to Access Anvil Corp. Now therefore be resolved that the town board hereby awards the contract for fencing and related improvements at 82 South Ferry Road to Access Anvil Corp. As per the documents attached in an amount not to exceed $788 to be paid from that line is listed.
Very good, thank you, Pat. Any questions on the resolutions? Pat, if you can read the headings, and we'll consider each resolution individually.
Resolution number 261 of 2017, a resolution authorizing the assessor to relevy additional and amended maintenance costs for abandoned or foreclosed homes pursuant to section 7312 of the town code.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Mr. Whalen, and like many municipalities around the country, coming out of the what was deemed the housing crisis, Clifton Park had a spike in foreclosed and abandoned properties. Thankfully, in our case, it was a very small, tiny fraction of the overall properties and homes within the town, but larger than we had experienced in the past. Began to get some complaints about these properties being a blight on the neighborhood, and let's face it, a house that is not maintained properly, there's grass that's a foot or two high, and windows that might be broken, a back door that's not secure, a pool that is left full. These are all things that can be a safety issue to the neighborhood. So to eradicate the potential hazards to various neighborhoods in town, we embarked on a new program where our building department and buildings and grounds department partnered together to work on this, and they've done a great job over the last few years. We do regular inspections on these homes as they become known to us. First thing we do is check and see if there's a pool in the backyard. If there is, we drain it right away. Secondly, we just do a check around the house to make sure doors and windows are secure. We're not going to do any cosmetic work, certainly, on private property, but again, just to make sure that the building is secure. And we will, on occasion, cut the grass. And, just a general look, inspection, every couple of weeks to make sure that the house is secure and there's no safety issues within the property. So as we do that, obviously we encumber an expense. There is an expense for the town to do all of these tasks. So our departments have very carefully kept records, and when over time, as these services are rendered, the expenses are then applied to the tax bill of the property. Once the property transfers to private ownership again, which in some cases takes years, the town will be reimbursed for the work that we perform. So, like I said, I can't say enough about the great work our staff has done in this regard. The only complaints I'll get once in a great while is a homeowner calling saying, hey, the house down the street, nobody's been living there for 6 months, it's a mess, so on and so forth. And that's how we find out about most of these homes. It's from the people that live nearby that have become frustrated with the either the aesthetics of the property or the fact that they are concerned about a potential safety issue. So that's where we are. So we got a whole list of expenses here that we're applying, and like I said, we'll get reimbursed at some point. Any further discussion? Okay, Pat?
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilman Walowitz?
Yes.
Councilman Barry?
Yes.
Resolution number 262 of 2017, the resolution scheduling a public hearing to consider the 2018 preliminary budget.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Whalen, second by Mr. Arnold. Discussion.
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilman Walowitz?
Yes.
Councilman Barry?
Yes.
Resolution number 263 of 2017, the resolution approving an outside user connection to the Clifton Country Road Sewer District Number 1 for property located at 11 Clifton Country Road.
So moved.
Second by Mrs. Standard, second by Mr. Whalen. Michael?
Yes, sir.
What's the sewer business?
It's good.
It's flowing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
How are things on Clifton Country Road?
This is in Clifton Country Road Sewer District. It's a project, it's actually multiple connections, but same owner, same parcel. We are kind of in a situation where we have to wait until March until the parcels are assigned a value and the numbers exist, and then we'll come forward to the board for a district extension. It's cut and dry in that area. All this agreement says is that they will abide by the rules of the district, and when the time comes to be in the district, they're in the district. So it's just a way to let them get some pipe in the ground before winter and make some progress, and in the spring we'll be back in to formally do a district extension.
Very good. And as you can see in the packet, you have the outside user agreement here. Anything else you need to know about this at this point?
Nope, I think that's it. I think they may be separate lots in the end, but again, at that time it'll be addressed in the map plan report.
All right, good. Any further discussion?
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilman Walowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Barry?
Yes.
Resolution number 264 of 2017, a resolution authorizing the hiring of Ryan Ensel and Mark McHugh as motor equipment operators in the Highway Department.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Ms. Walowitz, second by Mr. Whalen. We have a couple of retirements in the Highway Department. And Mr. Bold, tell us about these two gentlemen and their experience.
Absolutely, yes. Looking to hire Mark Kuhn and Ryan Ensel. They both have experience in plowing. Mark's coming from state DOT. Ryan's coming from another municipality in Saratoga County. We're right on the cusp of winter here, so we want to make sure that our new hires are ready and ready to go, hit the ground running, or plowing, I should say. Yeah, as soon as they start, we can get them in a truck, and it's just gonna be like their old jobs. Hopefully, just a better boss.
Only better.
Yeah, a better boss.
Well, they're smiling so far. Very good. So they both have their Class B?
Yes,
Correct?
yes. Which is necessary for driving
Yes.
the plow.
Absolutely. Class B or A, but we'll certainly take the Class B. And interesting, every day that it's not icing or snowing after October 1st is a good day. And last year, we didn't get a lot of snow last year, if you remember, but it was a very expensive winter. We were deployed many times. I remember you were keeping track at one time because you were new in the position.
36 times.
Yeah, so it was like almost every day he was in the position for the first 40 days.
For a, we probably drove by our house 71 times during the winter. Not too shabby.
Yeah, so, and then you think back and say, well, gee, we didn't have much snow. But, sometimes the ice can be a lot more treacherous and sneaks up on you. And when you have days where, it's fairly warm, it's hanging around the 32, 34 degree area, and get a little precipitation, and all of a sudden the sun drops, it gets dark, and the ice and the roads freeze over. And we had that happen How many times?
12 times.
12 times, there you go. So, and then we had the other occasions where it just came down, and we knew it was coming. But it's, it can be treacherous and sneak up on you. So, actually, last winter was expensive. So, God bless you.
Snow's not bad. Ice is bad.
Yeah,
Ice is bad.
snow can be a lot easier. But, so, gentlemen, we welcome you aboard, and get some rest, just in case the winter turns out worse than what we expect. But it's great that we're able to bring in two gentlemen here that have extensive experience. Not easy to find nowadays, and we're very fortunate in that regard, so welcome.
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilman Marwood?
Yes.
Vice Mayor?
Yes.
Resolution number 265, 2017, resolution authorizing the town supervisor to enter into a contract to purchase 3.39 acres of land along the Bear Brook Stream for open space and habitat protection, and authorize a transfer from contingency.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Romano, second by Ms. Walwick. Mr. Scavo, how are we doing tonight? John's in a good one with the Giants won last night.
Yes.
We got one.
coming.
We got one.
Town was contacted at the beginning of the year by Mrs. Straney, who originally filled out a letter of interest in 2013 with the town for us to potentially acquire these two parcels. At the time in 2013, Mrs. Straney noted that the town recently considered Dwazkill Nature Preserve Plan, and as part of that plan, it talked about preserving Dwazkill Nature Preserve and the tributaries. Specifically, the Bear Brook was identified as a vital area for habitat protection because it's one of the 5% streams in New York State that actually have naturally spawning brook trout. Everybody thinks of the Adirondacks as being pristine watersheds for this, and when you tell people Clifton Park, we actually have that. It's because of the proactive steps that we take with our infrastructure, stormwater management, and open space preservation and protection. It's very rare to find naturally spawning brook trout outside of the Adirondack Parks as a result. We have worked with Trout Unlimited also in 2013, who did temperature monitoring and logging along the Bear Brook Stream, and encouragement for habitat protection was also recommended as a result of the outcomes. For the students here this evening, I would explain brook trout as the canary species of the fish world. They're very susceptible to temperature spikes. So what happens is, as you have development, especially in July and August, you get the quick burst rainfall events. So you have stormwater running off of hot asphalt that then creates a temperature spike. And the water is actually warm, and that actually is fatal to the brook trout. So what do we do by doing habitat protection? We're preserving tree canopies over the stream corridor to ensure that thermal impacts are mitigated. We're also doing stormwater management with redevelopment that's occurring within our town center to improve upon prior stormwater management practices. As the decades have gone on, the issues related to stormwater have come to the forefront, so we can actually improve through redevelopment opportunities in our town center the water quality as it's discharged into streams. And
we've done that as it relates to discharge from exit 9 into the Bear Brook.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exit 9 area, the 146.
Well, we didn't do it, the developer did. But.
Correct. The developers are making the investment as we see redevelopment
Right.
to also upgrade the infrastructure to ensure that the water quality is made better than the existing conditions. And this will provide that habitat protection, and it's consistent with other parcels that have been acquired over time within this corridor by the town.
With that explanation, Frank, maybe we can have John come to things that go bump in the night.
Good job. You did it excellent.
Yeah, I think that's a good explanation. Okay, very good. Any questions for John or comments in general? Okay. Pat?
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilman Marwood?
Yes.
Vice Mayor?
Yes.
Resolution number, resolution number 266 of 2017, a resolution awarding the contract for repairs to a fence at 82 South Berry Road.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Mr. Whalen. In this situation, and thankfully, these are very few and far between. I can't remember the last one. I've been not going to work. Couldn't remember us having to do this in the past, but we did have a, there's many homes and yards that abut town property. And unfortunately, in this situation, a tree fell on somebody's fence, the homeowner's fence, and chain link and did some damage. I think it's only right that, since it was our tree and our property, that we make it right for the homeowner and don't have them incur an additional expense or hardship due to our property. So, and access Anvil Court, which I believe used to be Anvil Fence. 788. So, I think this is a good move to rectify damage that was done by our property. Any further discussion?
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilman Stanard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilman Marlowitz?
Yes.
President?
Yes. Any other business to come before the board this evening? Seeing none, we'll go to public privilege. If you'd like to speak on a town matter, please raise your hand. We'll ask you to come forward. State your name and address for the record. And please keep it to 5 minutes or less. Sandy, all right.
Good evening. Sanford Roth, 52 Sweet Briar Drive, Boston Lake, New York. I know a few weeks ago, I believe Scott Reese, who's the stormwater management person for the town, also the individual who prepares all the information for the Environment Conservation Commission when we have our meetings. He spoke about Hazardous Waste Day, and he gave some statistics reference to what happened this year. And again, we had another successful year, and I want to thank the town board for once again approving the budgeted item to be able to perform and to have this day again in 2017. And I hopefully will say that in 2019, because we are now doing it biannually, that the board will again approve this, because again, we didn't have as many people, but we took in more poundage this year than we did 2 years ago. So there's still working out very well. And I want to thank some people, because there are people who volunteer and help us out with this function. And of course, you don't know who those people are unless I get up here and tell you who volunteered. And I know you know most of the people who they are, but I think it's something that we should do within the community so that they know that there are volunteers that do this program and help to make it a success. So at the registration desk this year, we had Pat O'Donnell and Jim Romano, who did the registration from 8 in the morning till 11 at night. And I'm sure 11 in the morning, I don't know why 11 at night, maybe they were there, I don't know. But 8 in the morning to 11 in the morning, and they really had the bulk of the people that come in during those hours. It always happens that we get people who are scheduled to come in 9:30, 10:30, 11 o'clock, and they just want to get in there and get out and get about their business on a Saturday. So we try to accommodate them as best as we can. And we have a bunch of people from the CERT group, which is the Community Emergency Response Team, who every year do traffic control for us, and they do a great job. And I thank them for that. From 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. in the afternoon, we had Linda Wallowit and my wife who volunteered to help out during that period of time. During the day, Supervisor Barrett, and every year since he has been the supervisor, he has come and shown up at Waste Day, and he has gone around and spoke to all the volunteers and personally thanked them for doing what they do. And this year he was accompanied by Li Zhang, and I hope I said her name correctly, and his son Brandon. And both of these people did, later in the day, do some registration and helped out with that. So it was really nice having those people there, and hopefully I might be able to call upon them in 2 years again. But again, I thank them. Amy Standard also came by and showed up later in the day, and that was great also. From the ECC, the Environmental Conservation Commission, we had 4 of our members show up. Howard Vipler, who unfortunately is no longer with us. He's moved to Virginia. Brian Glick, who is the chairman of the ECC, Dan Mathias, and Fred Barthmeyer. And they all came by and helped do the tags and putting them on the paint, which was not acceptable. And believe it or not, we still get a lot of paint that we don't take. And I don't know if people read what they say, or hopefully they can get something through, but compared to 2014, and I believe Scott mentioned this, and I want to mention this again to the community, that in 2014, it cost us $11,400 because of the amount of paint that came through. That was not acceptable anymore to be done that way. This year, according to Scott, it'll be approximately $800 that got through. And again, I think that's all because the ECC people are there and are ready to go through every single paint can and tag the paint cans so that we don't take that over when the vendor who comes there to do the waste day takes all the stuff out of the individual's car. So I think 99+% of the people who came through were very satisfied. Most people thanked us again for doing this. And again, I thank the town board for once again approving the budget to be able to do this, and hopefully we'll do it again in 2019.
Oh, did you say Jim and Linda? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I believe, did I?
That's what I mean.
Did I? I hope I did.
Well, you know, with Romano, you know, he likes extra praise, so.
Yeah.
We were the ones,
Yes, he worked with Pat.
we were there from 8 till 11 o'clock.
Absolutely. They never stopped, right?
Bev's up was great, she was there making
Yes.
sandwiches.
She was my final
Yeah.
individual to thank. Bev has done this, I believe, for 20 out of the 22 years that we've done this. Bev has run our lunch for us, making sandwiches, making sure people, if they wanted pizza, they got the pizza. So again, it was a very successful year. I also thank Market 32 for providing some of the food for us, and of course, once again, Stuart providing the water for us. So again, just so people know, we need volunteers to do this, and they always come through, and it's mostly the same people every time. In 2 years, I'm hopeful the registration will be Amy and Jim.
Well, thank you, Sandy, for that recap, and thank you for your assistance with that program all these years, so thank you very
Very close to
much.
my heart.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you again.
Thank you. And I do have to say, though, Sandy, it's a lot easier than it used to be.
Definitely.
Because in the past, we took electronics. We haven't done that in a few years now, but we took electronics. So, I mean, you'd have people showing up with old pickup trucks of TVs and CRTs, all kinds of stuff. And there were many occasions where you needed a trailer just to transport the size of the TVs that were coming in. And that was a workout all day there. But now we take that, and have been every day down at the transfer station for a few years, we take electronics. So kind of cut that out of hazardous waste day. But so I know that was at least a portion of the people that showed up only had electronics, so it would make sense that the numbers have tapered down a little bit, but still have several hundred families that are taking advantage of it, so it's good. Frank, you had your hand up?
Yep.
Had your hand up and your ribbon on. I see.
Yeah.
Good.
I got this a week ago. How's that?
Yeah, boy, you beat
Yeah.
it by a week.
Frank Berlin, 980 Main Street, Jonesville. Sandy, great thing about the volunteer, just thinking that we have so many people that volunteer in town. We need like a volunteer day or a volunteer week or a month to recognize the people and put down the Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts, the coaches, the firemen, I mean, and the people that do all these things. And the guys sitting over there, they come and help on their day off. And the shredding day, you guys missed the shredding day. It was a good day, you know. You don't get these things in your town. So, you know, I'm telling you, it's not a bad situation. Then, the Bear Brook. You know, I read a book about the brook trout, that they'll spawn on wet leaves, the guy said. He's an expert. And they come up our brooks in this clean water that we have in our town. So I have a photograph, and some of you have seen it, and this is actually in Bear Brook. There's a wooden stick in there, and it's 12 inches long, and the fish is bigger than that. It has white fins on it. When the brook trout gets big, it gets little white fins on it. So the season's closed now, so you can't go in there because they're spawning. But I'll show you that. Some of you have seen it already. I just happen to have it. That's pretty old. So we're so lucky because it's not only water for the fish, it's for us. You know, it's really clean water. It has to be that way. So don't dump any antifreeze down the drain or anything out there. Make sure you dispose of it properly. If you don't know what to do, call Sandy. He'll take care of it.
Yeah, yes, hold it in the basement. We'll get you in a couple of years.
Oh, another thing that happened about a couple of weeks ago, such a beautiful day, I went down to Bishop's Ferry to walk on the new trail. And I'm on the open space committee, so I asked people, I went down there with my wife and my son and his wife, and there was so many people at the Whipple Bridge, you couldn't park. On the Whipple Bridge side, on I think it was a Sunday afternoon, there were so many people, there was a man parking across the street. And I said to him, where are you from? Troy, New York. Comes over here to enjoy our park. I said, how do you like it? He loves it. It's wonderful, you know. People on bicycles go by, strollers going by. Then we went down by the Twin Bridges. If you go underneath the Northway and the Twin Bridges to check out the Waver Pond Bridge, which you just put in, what, 1.2 or 3 million? Absolutely gorgeous. People on mechanical, motorized wheelchairs. Poor person was a really young lady, and I spoke to the mother and the aunt, and I said, where are you from? Not from Clifton Park, because everybody thinks that, you know, it's Clifton Park's park, which they talk about the school land that way. We share it with everybody, all right? And so they weren't from Saratoga County, they weren't from New York State, they were from Bangor, Maine. They said, this is a great place. And they also come in here and spend their money, you know, their money, not our money, their money. And so,
Clifton Park, providing the country with its recreation. It's a great tagline.
You got to go out and see what's going on, all right?
Making the country healthy again.
Now here's a little beaver story I got to tell you about some perfect land we have down by the river. There's a road, and underneath the road, there's a pipe, right? And the pipe sticks out into the water. Pretend this is all water, and the pipe comes out here, and the beaver plugged the pipe up, so the water rose up and was coming over the road. Trying to figure out how to stop him from doing it. So I get on my boots, right, my fishing waders, I'm down here digging up to my shirt because it's all wet with a t-shirt, mucking that hole out down there. They pack all stuff in there, put a fence around it, chicken wire. They came right over it. You know, couldn't stop them. They drive you crazy because they're really clever and very strong. They carry rocks to plug up the hole. They're unbelievable. Well, somebody emailed me.
They chew trees.
They chew the trees down, yeah. Somebody emailed me about a device called a Clemson pipe. And what it is, it's a white PVC pipe that you put into the pond, stick it way out in the pond, above the bottom of the pond, and the water goes through there and goes through that, will go out under the dam. So what I did was I went down to one of the hardware stores, and I bought that black flexible pipe that's got perforated holes in it, and the pipe going under the road is 8 inches, and this pipe was 6, so I stuck it in there a little ways, I put stake on each side, wired it down so they couldn't get it, stuck this out into the pond, and put a fence post there and held it up, so it was up above them, see? So the water was going into this perforated pipe, and it went out. So all the water went out of there. Now, the town just recently surveyed that park, right? The pond there, I'm telling you, go down there to see it, it's only 2.5 feet deep. And you think, well, that's a useless pond. It's full of frogs and things, and there's blue herons down there eating, there's ducks down there. There's no water chestnuts in there, which is really great. We don't have them in here. So it's a great natural place. And if you figure out a 2-acre pond, so somebody may know that how many square feet are there in an acre? There's 43,560. We have 2. Multiply that by 2. I'm an ex-math teacher, right? Steve knows that. Don't go to sleep, Steve.
You were Steve's teacher?
No. I don't know.
Frank, I've been listening to your fishing stories for years.
Did he put you to sleep in the school too?
No.
Oh, we better not do that.
So I figure when I reached down, I was down about 2 feet times 2 acres of land, and a gallon, 1 cubic foot of water is 7.4 gallons. That the amount of water that came out of that pond in about 3 weeks was 1,303,315 gallons of water. And you know, they're starting, because that pipe is now getting lower, they're starting to get to plug that thing out. But the thing was, we didn't remove them, because if you remove them this time of year, they're getting ready for the winter, so they store their food under the water, so they can get, you know, branches to eat in the wintertime. So they're still there, they're doing what they do, but they're not flooding over the road anymore. So that was really a good thing, I think, to get the people to do that. And just thought I'd let you know that a lot of things can be done without telling them or doing something else. Sometimes you have to do something, but if we look at it a different way, I think we get a lot of good solutions. And the town's been really good about that. So a lot of good things going on in open space. Bump of the Night was a great night.
Thank you, Frank.
And so
The
thank
5
you very
minutes
much.
are
My
up.
2 minutes are up. Don't give me my picture back.
Thanks, Frank. I appreciate that very much. And yeah, they can, beavers can cause issues, particularly when they build their dams that lead to roads getting flooded over. We try to move them without killing them, but try to take the humane approach whenever possible. Anyone else?
Motion to adjourn?
Second by Mr. Webb.
Councilman Sandor?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.